Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsey Moppert here, joined with our Sabres and NHL insider Paul Hamilton. Paul, the Sabres dropping their 10th straight game in Toronto, 5-3, the final score. The simplest way to put this, where was the urgency that we needed to see from this team for them to get out of this now 10-game slump?
Things are going well. You see it. You saw it to take a 3-1 lead against the Leafs. Fans weren't too happy with what they were seeing with their hometown club. They went out there. Jack Quinn comes back, scores 2 goals for you, looks confident. They scored a power play goal just over a minute into the game. And then Alex Tuch comes roaring down the slot. So now just a few minutes into the game, you're up 2-0. And then, you gave up a goal before the period ended. But in the second period, Jack Quinn comes off the bench, rolls down the slot, again, shows confidence in his shot. You're back up 3-1. Devin Levi made some great saves for you to keep you there. And it took 2 minutes and 31 seconds for a 3-1 lead to become a 4-3 deficit. Because they take penalties, they panic. You know what? You're going to get scored on. So what? Toronto scored to make it 3-2. So what? Just keep playing. Just keep doing what you're doing. That got you the 3-1 lead. Don't change anything. But when you know what the Sabres do, and they've done it a lot this year, 28 seconds later, they take a penalty. Well, guess what? Here comes the avalanche. Because now the Leafs are feeling it. They're in the game. They tie the game. Now they've got all these superstars. They're on the power play. Let's go get it. I knew for sure they were going to score. They did. Now it's tied. Now mass panic sets in. Now, and now you're chasing. Now you're chasing everybody around the defensive zone. Levi's standing on his head, trying to hold you in there. And of course, they score the 4th goal. So in 2 minutes and 31 seconds, you went from a 3-1 lead to a 4-3 deficit. And that's what they do. Sometimes you just got to say that's who they are. They're good hockey players. They're very good hockey players. But they don't have the mental makeup. They probably are the softest mental team I have ever seen in the National Hockey League. I have never seen anything like this. Something goes wrong, and they just go scatterbrained. They take penalties. They chase. They just, and we've seen examples where they can play well. They were 7-2 at one point this year. They were 4-1-1 at another point this year. So when they want to do it, they can. But they always revert back to what they did for Granato and what they're doing for Lindy Ruff. They can't do it consistently because they don't have the mental toughness to be able to overcome these hurdles that come to them during hockey games. And it's been over 2 years now. It's not like this team is new. This core group has been together for 2 years and around 30 games. And that's who they are, and that's what they do.
And Paul, do you feel like part of that, I think something that's a bit frustrating is the fact that this team last year, the problem was that they were always chasing, could never get the first goal. This year, we're seeing it consistently where they are getting the first goal. In this game, for example, they go up 2 goals actually, and still you can't really bet on anything because, as you said, you're up 1 goal and then all of a sudden 2 minutes and 30 seconds later, now you're the one with the deficit. So, what do you think kind of goes into this? Is this also part of that mental toughness that you were hitting on there?
Yeah, they're fragile. And I think the Colorado game blew up their season. I don't think they recovered from it, and I don't think they will. Now, maybe they'll fool me. But I haven't seen anything in the last 2 seasons with this core group together that would tell me that they could pull out of that. It's just you were ahead 4-0 in the first period. About 11 minutes into the game, you're up 4-0, and you didn't even leave the game with 1 point. You totally lost the game because, again, you just couldn't. When things started going bad, you couldn't pull yourself out of it. And you're right. Last year, it was the first periods were bad. You're behind 3-0. You're behind, and they're chasing the game for the rest of the game. And then they would have pretty good third periods and make it close, but not close enough to be able to win a hockey game. Now it's the other way around. They're blowing leads. They had a 5-3 lead midway through the third, lost to Detroit. They had a 4-1 third period lead against Colorado, lost to Colorado. They had a 2-goal lead against the Toronto Maple Leafs, lost to Toronto. How many of these games wound up being 1-goal games? They've lost 6 1-goal games out of the 10. And quite honestly, this Toronto loss and this Washington loss were basically 1-goal losses because they both had empty net goals in them, which made them 2. But for the most part, as far as the competitive part of the game, they were 1-goal losses. So they don't do those. Remember Lindy Ruff talked about 1%ers when he came? They're not doing the 1%ers. They're taking too many dumb penalties in the offensive zone, too many penalties overall. They just they shoot wide or hit more posts than any team I've seen. It's shocking how many times they shoot wide. I hadn't looked in the Toronto game, but I will tell you the Washington game, they had 21 shots on goal and 17 shots wide. You can't shoot the puck wide like that. I think the game before, or 2 games before, they had 22 shots wide. And they do it all the time. But so you're in a 1-goal game. So instead of putting 22 shots wide, maybe put 8 shots wide. And maybe one of those 14 that hit the net might go in. That's how you solve this and win 1-goal hockey games that you're losing. But they have these, as Lindy Ruff calls them, 1%ers that they're not winning. They lose the special teams battle because they don't work hard enough to win battles. Those little things in a hockey game, they don't master and the other team does, and then they lose by a goal.
Paul, another talking point that Lindy Ruff had definitely emphasized and talked about as he, joined the organization earlier in the year is accountability. This team last year, after missing the playoffs for the 13th straight year, saying that we want accountability. Everyone in the locker room saying, yes, accountability, accountability. That was the word of the day. Lindy's bringing accountability. He's benching players who aren't playing well. He's scratching players who aren't playing well. And still, the outcome is the same. So how much, in your opinion, is this now on Lindy, who's in his first year back as the head coach, or how much of this is on the players and their performance out on the ice?
I remember when we talked about this last year, and I talked about when are people going to start blaming the players? Of course, they want the coach. I'm already getting that people want Lindy Ruff fired. What are we, 30 games in or about that? And they already want the coach fired. How's that worked for you the past 13 years, firing all these coaches? Same thing with Granato. And there were things about Don Granato's coaching I didn't like. There were some things I did like. But it's let's fire the coach. Let's fire the coach. He coddles them too much. He does. He does. He coddled them way too much. Let's bring in a guy that's going to hold them accountable. He has. He's held them accountable. Actually worked for Jack Quinn, at least for 1 game. When Owen Power only played 2 minutes of the first period the other night, he had the best 40 minutes of the season after that. But at the end of the day, where's it gotten them? Nowhere. The results are the same. I mean, they're actually probably worse off now as far as the standing goes than they were last year. And it's been done different ways. We talked about, last year you couldn't play the beginning of the game, but you'd play the end of the game. This year, you play the beginning of the game, but you don't play the end of the game. Last year, you were coddled. Don Granato didn't believe in holding people accountable because he didn't want them to get nervous. Now you're holding people accountable. And at the end of the day, the results are the same. They don't change. So when is it time to say it's on the players? It's on this core group that's all locked up. Not all, but a lot of them are locked up for 7-8 years at monies in some cases that you can't trade until they start getting better again and maybe playing up to their potential. What do you do? How? If you can't trade these players or you can't trade these contracts, you're stuck. And it's like a vicious circle for them right now.
And tonight, Paul, you and I kind of looking at that last sentence from Lindy after the game, and he looked a little lost. I mean, after 10 straight losses, there's really isn't much else that you can say to the fan base, to everyone, to the media, to explain yourself as to why you can't find the urgency, as you said, find the desperation to then get back in the win column? And the important quote here, he said, "I'm almost lost for words." He said, "This is the toughest solve that I've been around," which I think speaks, that speaks a lot. And I know that sentence specifically to you as well kind of said a lot.
I've been around Lindy Ruff for a long, long time, and I've never heard him like that after a game or at any point. I don't think he knows what to do or what to say anymore. I don't think he realized the depth of these players and who they are and what they can and cannot do. And I think he felt, because he knows hockey, he understands if you play hockey a certain way and do it right, you're going to be successful. Well, usually you are. But with this group, they can't figure out how to play the game all the time or most of the time the way they want it played. And when they do, they're a darn good hockey team. But they just don't do it enough. And it always gets back to this. So Lindy Ruff was out of answers. It was so obvious last year. Don Granato was out of answers. Don Granato didn't know what to say anymore by the end. I don't blame him. What do you say? He tried everything. Nothing worked. Lindy Ruff is already to that point. It's like, what do you do with these guys? I don't think he knows what to do with them, because the practical coaching that you would do isn't working because of the makeup of some of these guys. And maybe they'll wake up. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but there's just nothing in the last 2 years that has made me think whatsoever that they're going to wake up and become a good, consistent hockey team. I know they have the potential to do that, but there's nothing I've seen that tells me they're going to reach that potential.
And Paul, as the saying goes, as a coach, you can only do so much. You can't really make them care. I know Jason Zucker was a player who has been very vocal in the locker room, and he said after maybe the 7th or 8th straight loss, he said, "It's not a Buffalo Sabre thing. These things happen. These losing streaks happen, and it's certainly not a matter of care." He made sure to emphasize that, but it certainly is hard to feel like it's not a matter of care when you're now running on a 10-game losing streak. So obviously we're going to see if they can snap that before it gets to 11. Their next game is in Montreal. Paul, you will be there. That is on Tuesday at 7 o'clock against the Canadiens. But for now, with Paul Hamilton, I'm Lindsey Moppert. We'll see you here next time.